Welcome back, everyone, to the Humor Career Insights podcast, your guide to navigating career success. I'm your host, Vachechi Bafa, a certified professional career coach, human resources consultant, and founder of Humor. Whether you're just starting out or transitioning after years of service, this podcast is your go-to resource for invaluable tips and strategies. In the series, we're tapping into the power of storytelling. Join us as we meet some incredible people whom I have had the privilege to meet in this life journey. Some I have known for a lifetime and some I have just met. But all of them have stories that I know will inspire you as well. So, let's get inspired. I'm honored today to be joined by a recognized name in media and communications in Zimbabwe, Africa, and dare I say, the world. Comfort Mbofana. He has made significant contributions as a radio personality and media professional, known for his engaging style and thought-provoking content. I am delighted that he has taken time out of his very busy schedule to have this conversation on Humor Career Insights. A very warm welcome to you, Comfort.
Hi, Bachi. Well, thank you for having me on your show. I'm really glad to be here.
Great. Just a note to our listeners, Comfort is joining us from Zimbabwe. So excuse any small hiccups in terms of connectivity. Comfort, when I was growing up, I used to get asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd like to start with that same question for you. What were your aspirations growing up and how did they shape your career choices?
Funny, Bachi. Thank you so much for that question. When I was growing up, my father before me was a broadcaster, and I used to waver between wanting to be a broadcaster and being a lawyer. I liked the lawyers I saw on television and how they looked and dressed and spoke and argued their cases. But then eventually I went into the media, like my grandfather before me, my father before me. I got an aunt who was also in the media, and now I also work in the media. So that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow. So it's like a role model, hey? We don't really appreciate that the adults around us form a sort of role model for us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. That's why it's important, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it as we go along, as parents, to set very good examples for our children in terms of working hard and integrity and all that good stuff. But I always saw how my father worked. I liked what he did. I liked the impact it had on society, and I thought, and I suppose subconsciously, I just thought that's something I would like to do too. So funny, I'm doing exactly what he used to do when he was my age many years ago.
Yeah, that is actually very inspiring. Now, can you walk us through your career journey? Then did you start and right up to where you are now?
Okay, it's been a long road. So my career started off with this then Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, which was the sole broadcaster in Zimbabwe. It had 4 radio services, which were all national, and a television channel. And I joined one of the radio services, which was Radio 1 channel for the former white people of Zimbabwe. That's the one they used to listen to. So it played a lot of, classical music and a lot of interesting discussions and things like that. So when I joined ZBC, I was working for Radio 1. I later moved on and joined the youth channel. But remember, I was quite young as well. I was, 20 years old? And then I later moved on to the youth channel, which was Radio 3, which was mainly pop and, top 40 format, et cetera, et cetera. You remember Radio 3?
Yes.
I worked at Radio 3 for a long time and for Radio 1 for a long time. And then I left and joined a public relations company, a public relations consultancy, which was based in Australia, but had offices here in Harare. And then after that, I joined an advertising agency. And then I worked as a consultant, but I stayed doing part-time work for radio. In media, I've been a television presenter. I've been a radio presenter. I've been a newsreader. I used to do a lot of commercial productions. I've been, a master of ceremony for events, etc., etc. But the basis has always been my radio work. Later on, I joined, what was to become Zimbabwe's first commercial private radio station, which is Star FM. I started off doing the breakfast show there, and then I moved on to be programming manager, and then I moved on to be station manager, and now I work as general manager for the 4 radio stations within the Zimpaper's radio broadcast division. So we've got Star FM, which is Zimbabwe's biggest radio station. We've got Diamond FM out in Mutare, which is in the eastern part of Zimbabwe. We've got Platinum FM, which is in Mashonaland West, another province of Zim. And then we've got Kapi Talk, which is which is a talk radio station based here in Harare. So that's currently what I do now. But I still do present a radio show most Sunday afternoons because, once the radio bug bites, it never really lets go.
Yes, that was actually going to be my next question. I was going to be like, okay, so now you're a general manager. Do you ever actually broadcast? Do you actually ever sit behind a microphone?
Yeah, I do that every Sunday between 3 and 6 p.m. I mean, it's something I look forward to. It's a highlight of my week, really. And funny, every time I speak to people who've been in broadcasting before, they'll tell you that they miss it so much. And they find one way or the other to come back to it. I mean, you never really leave. I've been doing this for 35 years now, and it's it's something I've just thoroughly enjoyed, and I'll do it for the next 35 years until they have to wheel me out of the studio. I'll keep doing it.
So now your career in radio, how has it prepared you for like all these other opportunities? Like now you're general manager for the four radio stations in Zimbabwe. How did your actual career in radio prepare you for this?
Okay, like anything else, I used to get really annoyed in the past when people wouldn't think of, radio broadcasting as a career. And particularly the continuity presentation part of it, which is what many people call being a DJ, a radio DJ. And people wouldn't think of it as a career or something that is taken seriously. It used to be thought of as quite frivolous and not serious. In fact, you'd hear people say, "Oh, I mean, what do you really do for a living?" When you say, "No, I'm a radio presenter," they'll say, "What do you really do for a living?" Mm-hmm. That can't be what you do full time. So we've had, I mean, with the young people I deal with now, and over the years that I've been broadcasting, we've had to make it a serious profession where people can make a living. And like anything else, it requires hard work. It requires integrity. It requires preparation. It requires for you to take it seriously. It requires for you to be professional about it. And all the stuff that you do in any other profession, you apply to that job. And that's what I've taken out of it. And it's prepared me for what I do now. Although I need to tell you that I spent a long time working in public relations and as an advertising executive. I jumped through my story a little bit there, and that I formed an advertising agency with some people, which became one of the top 3 in the whole country at one point. And the hard work that goes into that particular aspect of the creative industries, I'm applying to what I do now. My job now is more administration and managing talent, etc., etc., etc. But everything I've been doing over the last 35 years has been preparing me to where I am now, where I'm more strategy, more administration, more operational in what I'm doing now.
Okay. Yeah. I like what you said about integrity, and we'd like to think that integrity has kept you at the top of your industry, setting the good examples.
Yeah. But I wasn't always good. I was young once as well and wild. But I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I mean, some of the people I've called mentors around me, one of whom coincidentally just released a book yesterday, in which I was privileged enough to write the foreword for. He was my boss at ZBC, but he's the very example of integrity and how this profession had to be turned into something serious. His name is John Masuku. Look out for his book. I'm giving him a nice plug on your show there.
Thank you.
He's one of the people he's one of those people who always instilled in me that you have to take what you're doing seriously. That means you have to be punctual. I'm one of the things about me is I hate being late for anything. As early. For this recording as an example, if you noticed, I was trying to log in like 10 minutes before.
Yes, very impressive.
But I'm always trying to be punctual. And that's just one of those things for me. Yeah. Even when I get into the office, I get to the office at, we start work at 8 o'clock, but I get to the office about 7:15. Because I think it just communicates something that you're taking what you're doing seriously. You're respecting the people you're working with. You're respecting what you do. And that is part of, for me, what this integrity is all about. I mean, sometimes when I'm talking to young people, I despair when I hear them say things like, work smarter, not harder. Nothing will ever really substitute hard work. You can use the tools around you to work and to make your work easier, but hard work is always required. And you'll find that those who put in the extra mile always go a little bit further. That for me is what I've taken out of for how long I've worked.
So several things there. One that hits out at me particularly is mentorship. How you've had mentors in your career. How pivotal would you say those mentors have been to your success? And also on the other side, do you mentor anybody?
Yes. Okay, I'll start with the second question. Yes, I do mentor. I do mentor as many people as possible. I like to give as much opportunity to a lot of people. And I have mentored some people in terms of leadership, in terms of administration, in terms of what I do, and it's something I enjoy because what's the point of me going to my grave with what I've learned? So I do a lot of mentoring, and I enjoyed a lot. I myself was mentored. I've got a lot of them up to this day. When I speak to them, I still speak to them as my seniors and my mentors and my superiors. And some of them are proud of what I've become as their mentee. Some of them still say you still got a long way to go, but a teacher will always be a teacher, etc. So yeah, mentorship is extremely important, and I encourage all the people out there, young people who might be listening, to find themselves a mentor and listen to that mentor and take what they can from it, and then move further and go further than their mentor would have possibly done. And that is the way we can only progress as a society and as a people.
So I was impressed by your timekeeping and the fact that you mentioned it as something that drives you. What keeps you going 35 years later?
Oh, goodness gracious me. Well, the fact that I've got a lot of bills to pay, that's one. Number two is just I enjoy what I do. I'm one of the people who are very fortunate to have gotten into something they love. I've loved being in media. In fact, when I was telling you how I started, I skipped it because I've done so many things. Sometimes I forget. I've also written movie scripts. I've written 3 of them. 3 of them have been made into short films, and I'm very proud of that. I was a print journalist, and I've written for newspapers and magazines and articles for magazines, etc. Over the years. And I still do it up to this day. I'm very lucky that I've just enjoyed what I've done, and I've had a measure of success in it. I mean, you need to be modest and humble about it, but God has blessed. God has been good to me in that sense, and I'm very, very grateful. So that's what keeps me going, and also how I see things changing and evolving, and how you have to become agile and learn yourself to the changing environment that is out there. Broadcasting as it is right now is not the same as it was 35 years ago. But some of the principles remain the same. But the platforming, the tools you use have changed. The principles have remained the same, but that also makes a difference in terms of how you deliver, how you package content, how you get it out there, etc. So exciting times, and you have to stay on with your finger on the pulse for you to remain relevant and remain current in the space these days.
Yes, that was actually going to be my next question to you, Comfort. This technology changes. The media landscape is constantly evolving. This podcast is a prime example, and there's so much online radio now. How have you adapted to these changes throughout your career?
All right. Maybe I'll answer it by talking about our radio stations and how we've adapted them to the digital age. We've had to move within the digital age, otherwise you'll be left behind. Citizen journalism, as I'm sure you know, Baji, is overtaking traditional journalism yes. Where the media group I work does. It's overtaking that. The problem with citizen journalism most times is that it's not curated content, it's not verified, and it's always who's first with that story. And with more structured media organizations like the one I work for, we have to verify a story because we don't want to open ourselves up for libel and for for defamation, etc. Mm-hmm. So we verify our stories, and then we only release the answer once we're 100% sure. Then we also apply some of the things in journalism like balance. You can't just go around and say, Bachi stole 25,000 shillings from whoever. You have to give Bachi a chance to say, Bachi, is it true that you stole 25,000 shillings? Most times you are finding that in digital journalism, that kind of thing isn't happening. What it's done for us, being in the digital age, is that it has actually cemented our reputation. I'll give the example of the last elections here in Zim, where one of our radio stations became the go-to place for people to verify results, because so many other digital outlets were just releasing results that were unverified. But because of our stringent operations, where we curate content and we verify and we make sure that what we're about to release is correct information and it's been approved, we found that a lot of digital outlets were now carrying our content. We became the go-to for giving election results. So there's still a place for that kind of professionalism in this digital space in journalism, and that's what we've been trying to push as well. Yeah, it's with thousands and thousands and thousands of radio stations and television stations around the world. You also have to think globally and think, how do you compete on a global stage? And we've had some measure of success in that, and we continue to be growing, but it's clearly not enough, and we have to do more just to remain relevant and to remain focused in this new digital age.
Yeah, like you said, everyone is now a competitor, right? Even, the man on the street is a competitor to actual broadcasting. So in terms of that competition, you've mentioned that integrity is one thing that you have used to remain on top. Are there any other strategies that you have used to manage that competition?
Okay. Integrity is one. Professionalism. You just have to be professional. And listeners and audiences can tell when something is being done professionally. You have to put in the work. There's nothing that will substitute hard work. You have to put in the work. I'm very proud of the team that is working with me on the 4 radio stations we have. Like in 2024, funny, before I spoke to you, I was just doing a document on how many awards we've won as the radio broadcast division of Zim Papers, and it turns out we've won 8 awards this year, quite prestigious awards for our journalists, our reporters, etc. So I'm very proud of that. It shows that hard work does pay off. You have to keep hungry and keep keep being curious about everything. One of the things I realize about people who are my age, and I won't tell you what that is, but about people my age, is that a lot of them become less curious as they get older. And they get set in their ways and get set in that this is the way we've always done things and we won't change. I think in this fast changing world, you have to remain curious and you have to equip yourself with the skills to deal with the modern world. So, in our organization, as example, we're upskilling all the old school journalists with digital skills so that they don't just report for radio and for print, but we're also saying you have to be involved in digital. You have to be part of the digital age. They've got skills and knowledge that they have and experience that they have from over the years. But we're living in a digital age, and we will fall and we will perish as an organization if we don't move digitally. So for me, I think those are the things that have helped me, have kept me going. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for that comfort. Now, I want to pick up on this transgenerational adaptation, this theme that's coming out. You mentioned hard work and young people that say, let's work smart instead of hard. And you obviously have a lot of young people that work in all your four stations. How is that gap being managed? And really, how do you manage people?
Yeah, the majority of the work I do, where I work right now, is actually managing people. I manage talent, basically. I try to get the best out of them. Unlike, say, a newspaper or a printing company whose cost of sales are mainly found in saying, so we have a lot of focus on our people and how to keep them motivated and incentivized. And that's where a lot of my focus lies. Now, the average age group of a person who works in our organization, that's in the division that I happen to lead, is 30. We're looking at it's 29 actually. Mm-hmm. So we've got a lot of Gen Zs and millennials that we work with, and then come people like me who are, I don't know, Gen old. I don't know what the phrase is for people like me. But we have to work with these young people, and we have to adapt to the way they think and their outlook on life. But at the very same time, we have to impart to them the skills and the experience that we've gathered over the years. And make sure that they carry that forward and they themselves transmit to generations that come after us. So it's very interesting. I mean, I enjoy hanging around with young people and listen to them speak. I enjoy their vibrancy and age. At the same time, you also have to teach them some things about what is right or wrong. And for you to be able to do that, you yourself have to be morally correct. You can't be telling a young person that don't do this when they see examples of yourself not doing it. I mean, I spoke about it earlier when we were starting that, our kids are watching us. Our kids are watching how we behave. So we have to behave in a certain particular way so that they can emulate and imitate that. So even in the workspace, that's exactly what I do. That's, one of the reasons I like to arrive early at work. That's why I will put in more time than anybody else, even at my old age. And that is why I'll know everything about anything, so that I've got a 360-degree view of the whole operation. And when I'm speaking to them and hearing their concerns, I can understand what they're talking about. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a pushover for everything they ask for. I mean, leadership isn't a popularity contest. Sometimes you have to say no, but you have to explain to the people why you're saying no and what it does and what impact your decision has on the overall health, whether it be financial, whether it be, cultural health of the company. So these are the things I try to impart to young people all the time, and I hope they're listening, and I hope they'll be able to take over from some of us when we're gone.
Yeah, from what you're saying, I take it your leadership style is definitely leading by example.
Yes, it's definitely leading by example. But you see, because I lead a lot of creatives, my leadership style is also a little bit, let them be creatives. Creativity environment for them to come and thrive and do what they like. And I think that's maybe why our national radio station has become the biggest radio station in Zimbabwe, the most listened to and the biggest urban radio station in Zimbabwe. Because we let the young people be creative, but you have to give them guardrails. You have to give them guardrails, and they have to be able to see a vision that, oh, this is where we're heading to. And that vision needs to be clearly articulated to them. That this is what we're doing, and this is how you play your part in us getting to that vision. So once you onboard them that way, and they feel like they're part of the process, they'll give 200%, and that's what we've seen with our radio stations.
Yeah, I want to talk about the skills, the upskilling that you talked about. How you said you upskill the older generation. So for young professionals that are aspiring to enter media or broadcasting, what are those skills or attributes that you think are most critical?
That is a good question. Obviously you probably have to go to journalism school and learn the ropes and learn the rules, what needs to happen, what doesn't need to happen. But I think you also have to have a keen interest in the profession. You have to know what's happening around it. A lot of times I find that a lot of people who want to join the media profession only just want to join for the fame of it. So that they can become popular and say, oh, have you seen me on television? And because of the benefits that comes with that you're known, you're popular, you probably make a lot of money out of it from outside things. But I think the most important things that for a journalist, when I was out there, and it was very lovely to see you and your lovely family, Bachi, when I was out in Nairobi last week. But when I was out there, we went to visit a media organization. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman who's the editor in charge, is it editor in chief?
Yes.
Whom I was speaking, I was so impressed by him and how he talked about the organization he works for. He's the editor in chief of the Standard Group, and how he talked about the organization and what it takes and what is required, particularly in the new digital convergence of the newsroom, that group that we're also doing as an organization. To him speak. And I was thinking, wow, this is so impressive. This is what I've been trying to tell everybody the whole time. Because he spoke about how, we're living in a digital age. So you need to have digital skills. You can't just be, what I did before is going to carry me through. So you can't be an old horse and not want to learn new things, because you're going to be left behind and you will become irrelevant whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So that's one thing. In a digital age, you have to learn digital skills. I mean, you can't be. Someone can't be like. I mean, one of my colleagues whom I work with, God bless him, he's a fantastic individual. He's a great journalist, but he's one of those. Oh, I don't understand this newfangled stuff. I've got my clipboard and I've got my pen, and every meeting he's got his clipboard and opening his, writing down his notes. A fantastic guy, very efficient, very effective. My conversation with him the other day was, whether you like it or not, in 5-6 years' time, you're going to be a little bit irrelevant. You're going to be a little bit irrelevant because everything is now digital. Because think about it. The first thing you do in the morning when you get up in the morning is you look at your phone to see what's online. What are people saying digitally? Nobody really gets up and switches on the TV first or switches on the radio. They first look at their phone.
Some people don't have TVs anymore.
You see? I haven't had a TV here. I'm at home right now. I haven't had a TV in this house in 6 months. It broke down and just never fixed it, and that was it. And don't even think about it. Yeah, so if that's what people do, you have to follow what patterns your audiences have. So if listeners and audiences, the first thing they're doing is going on digital platforms to look what the news is out there, shouldn't you be, as an organization, be there as well? Now, moving it down, scaling it down to the individual. As an individual, you should also think digitally. That's right, digitally.
Yes.
Right?
That's the word.
So that you can become relevant to your audiences. I'm very proud. So one of the young men we used to work with on our radio station, when he left, he started a podcast of his own. His name is Ola Seven. He started a podcast, and the podcast has really grown. But you can see some of the elements that he learned when he was with us. Of interviewing, the interviewing techniques, etc., etc., etc. And not little things like not going yes, I see what you mean, which I noticed you don't do so well done. But when his podcast has become the biggest podcast in the whole of Zimbabwe right now, and he's doing fantastically at it, and he learned how to upskill himself when he was still with us, and he realized that no, I just can't stay as a radio presenter. I have to move into the digital sphere. And then when he left our organization, he's still able to make a living, still being relevant, and his podcast, like I said earlier, has become the biggest one in Zimbabwe. So those are some of the attributes I think that young people will need, and to upskill themselves in terms of moving forward in this particular age.
Now, we talked about technology advancement. That's one of the big things. Let's talk about AI. A few weeks ago, we were planning an event and we're like, we need a DJ. And someone said to me, no, 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 we don't need a DJ. There's an AI DJ. How is that as competition, or how are you taking advantage of artificial intelligence?
Mm. No, that's a wonderful question as well, and it's one that that's been bothering a lot of broadcasters who feel that they may be eliminated with the advent of AI. But the gentleman I was speaking to last week when I was out there in Nairobi said AI is a helper. AI can't operate without being programmed first. You will still need people to for things to happen. We are starting now to adapt AI into our operations. In fact, we'll very soon be having an AI presenter doing a shift all by themselves, but it still won't replace that human feeling, that responsiveness, that human emotions can have. I don't think it should be viewed as a threat. I think it should be viewed as an ally in this industry that we're in right now. But who would have thought this was going to happen 30 years ago? We thought this was the stuff of science fiction, but it's here now and it's happening. And what's going to be in 30 years' time, who knows? But exciting times indeed. And we just need to adopt what it is out there and make it work for us rather than us work for it.
Yes, I was with a technology expert a few weeks ago having a conversation with them on Humor Career Insights, and we had an interesting conversation on AI, and that's the one thing that he mentioned, that we shouldn't fear it. We should use it as a tool. So we do need to get over that fear of AI.
I think we need to get over that fear of it, but the fear is there. But it happens every time there's change. There's always a fear of something new with people. But I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. I think it's something that we'll need and that will advance our societies, our communities, and our peoples.
Yes, and Comfort, talking about fame, you mentioned fame. How do you balance your on-air persona with your personal life?
With great difficulty, I can tell you that. I put a lot of time. I put a lot of work. I work like 7 days a week. I go to work over the weekend. I'm working all the time. I'm working in the evening. Even when I say I'm on leave, I'm never really on leave. I'm just always working. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult. But I've been able to do it. I've got boy children. Some of them are quite young. Some of them are a little bit older. And I have been able to balance the work life and the home life by, believe it or not, I don't take work home anymore. I used to do it. I used to go home with my laptop, and as soon as I got home, I switch on the laptop and I'm working into the night. And then I thought, no, you know something? When I get home, let me just be at home and be focused. Whether it's playing games with the kids, whether it's when I had a television, would watch TV. Although there'd be a big fight for the remote control all the time, because they wanted to watch cartoons, and I'm a bit of a news junkie. But no, we don't have that anymore. Whether we're talking, whether we're eating, and whether we're hanging around, so I just don't really open my laptop anymore when I'm at home. I'll open my laptop and do what I can when I'm at work and cover as much work as possible when I'm in the office. And when I leave the office, I come home so I can be present for my people here. And I think that's worked wonders for me. Because it is important for your family to see you too. I mean, there was a story that we were talking about on the plane. I keep talking about being in Nairobi. On the plane back here with my colleagues, there was a story we were talking about. And my colleagues were saying, we need to spend time with our families, guys. Because you know what happens with a job? When you're employed someone, you've got a job and you've got work and you've got someone where you work. Should anything, God forbid, was to happen to you, the first thought that comes into employers' minds is not, I wonder how his family is going to survive, or his poor widow and his poor children. The first thought in the employer's mind is, who are we going to replace him with? So it's important to spend time with your people, those ones who love you. At the workplace, you're just a resource, really. You're just somebody, somebody with a contract who's paid to work there. But with your family, you're everything. So it's important to have a work-life balance. But also at the same time, if you're not happy at home, there isn't a lot you're going to be able to do at work. That's when you'll start not getting along with others and not being very productive, because you've got a lot that you're thinking about. So as an organization, we also try to focus on that and just try to have a bit of wellness for our employees so that we've got a continuous balance for everybody.
What do you do in terms of wellness? Do you go to the gym? Do you jog? Do you ride a bike? What do you do?
I'm a very social creature. But I'm a very social creature, so I do like hanging out with different people from different things. I hang out. My wife's a musician. I hang out with musicians. I hang out with artists. I hang out with business people. I hang out with creatives, and I hang out with all kinds of different people all over the place. And I enjoy doing that and having great conversation. I do go to the gym. I know it doesn't look like it, but I do go to the gym, and that's good recreation for me. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I love watching live music. I love going to watch plays and going to the cinema. I've recently taken up walking. I've taken up walking. I find it clears the mind. I play chess. I write short scripts, like I mentioned before. I write plays. So I generally have a relatively full outside work life,
That's a lot of stuff that you do, Comfort, on top of your day job. So what does your day look like? From like 7:45 when you get to the office, what does your regular routine look like?
Okay. All right. I'll start from when I leave home, actually. I actually get to the office at 7:15. Well, I do the school run. I get to the office at 7:15, and then I go through my emails. I go through the emails from them. Like I said to you, I don't like looking at work when I'm at home these days. I used to do it, but I don't do it anymore. So then I go through my emails and respond to as much as I can. I also like to go on social media, just see what's happening, what stories are people talking about, what's going on, and just review our radio stations to see what's happening. From about 8 o'clock, I normally get into meetings. The finance people come and tell me about what's been happening. The sales and marketing manager comes and tells me about what's been going on and if there are any problems that need to be taken care of. In between, I'm seeing people can still come to see me about, some of their little problems, or somebody wants to travel somewhere, or a project that they've got going on that they're wanting a bit of help with. And that generally that is what I do. And then I do a lot of signing. I sign so many papers all the time. I'm approving things left, right, and center. All the time, I'm approving this and approving it. And I have to go through what I'm being asked to approve, because you have to be able to manage, things like cash flow, manage, keep an eye on everything that's going on. Speak to the station managers. One of them is out in Mutare, so I speak to him to find out how things are out there. The other one's out in Mash West. Speak to the ones that work at our building there at Radio House at 102 Simon Mazorodze here in Harare. Generally just be speaking to my managers and people all the time. Sometimes I'll speak to some of the staffers. Sometimes somebody just wants to come and crack a joke with you,
Yes.
and crack a joke with you. Even if you don't find it funny, you just, you burst into laughter. And it's good. And before you know it, it's 4:30. It's time to go, and you do it all over again the next day. And I know I have a lot of meetings with our head office. We have a lot of meetings, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of physical meetings as well. It's just always back. I'm always wondering. Woke up. Oh,
I think I've lost you.
Hi.
Okay. Yes,
No, I'm here. I'm here. I stopped midway there for dramatic effect.
Those are the skills. What is your favorite part of your job? What do you love the most?
Oh, I love coming up with concepts. I love coming up with new concepts and new ideas. And, you know what I mean? And then developing them and watching them being properly executed. I really, really enjoy that. I also love being on air. I enjoy that, but that's not really part of my full-time job. That's more of what I do for fun. But I love being on air, and I enjoy the communication with the audiences. My radio show that I do now is mostly adult music. It's mainly jazz, that kind of thing, and it's got its own audiences. And when you connect with them properly, you can feel it. They're not the kind of people who are going to write in or call in every 2 minutes, But you can feel it when you've connected with them, because they'll say, "Oh, haven't heard that one in a long time. Thank you, Comfort." Or, this happens to me a lot of times. I'm in a supermarket or I'm about to catch a flight or something, and then someone comes up to me and says, "My guy, I heard you on radio last week and you played a song. I got married to that song with my wife. So it's very, very special to me. Thank you so much." And or being told I'm, lovely things like you're a national treasure makes me feel old and like I should be in a museum. But that kind of thing makes it worth it. So I do enjoy that. That part of my job I enjoy a lot.
So do you keep up to date with like the music trends? Because when I listen to some of the music that's playing now in Zimbabwe, I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand this. Do you keep up with the trends?
I do. I do. Remember, I've got young children, I've got young presenters. I've got my own preferences, but I keep up with just to know what's happening. Just about 3 weeks ago or something, I went to a nightclub for the first time in a very long time. I think I must have raised the average age by a good 20, 30 years by just being there. But but I went to a nightclub, my friend just said, let's just go. And I went and sat down, and I was quite surprised that I knew a lot of the music. But because I work for a youth, I work with a youth radio station. It's good to keep your finger on the pulse and just understand what cultural trends there are. What are people doing? What are people listening to? What are they? What's happening out there? And are we responding to it? Are we moving in line with it? So yeah, I mean, you have to do that with what I do. Some of the music I listen to, some of it I like, just like in everything else. Some of the stuff I like, some of the stuff I don't like. But I like all kinds of. I'm very eclectic that way. I like all kinds of music and all kinds of things. And if it just appeals to me, then it appeals to me.
So you keep up to date with your kids, eh?
I do keep up to date with my kids, but sometimes they surprise me because they seem to like a lot of old music themselves. So yeah, it's vice versa. It's an exchange, I guess.
Let's talk about personal brand, Comfort, because you are a brand.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just dress anyhow, right?
It's funny. Well, that's another good question. You've got so many good questions. Yes, I have a brand. I remember one of the courses I went through. I think it was with the BBC, where they were talking about how to develop a personal brand. And I've developed a personal brand from there. But I do dress the way I sort of like. I mean, I dress the way I feel. Mm-hmm. I dress the way I feel. And I have to dress appropriately. If I'm going to meet some very important people, you can't walk in with a pair of shorts and some slops. I think it's important to respect the meeting and respect the occasion and respect the people you're going to meet. But most times, I think because of the creative environment I work in, I dress that way to reflect that. And it assists in the creativity and the aesthetics of the environment. So basically, that's what I've done with my personal brand. I used to be asked to come and MC some events. I just don't go to every event willy-nilly because some of them are not for me. We're not the correct fit. And I'll pick the ones that I think this one works for me. This I can do. This goes along with my brand. And I go with whatever their corporate brand is as well. So yes, I've cultivated that, and I think it's important for one to do that, particularly in this industry, because you will be identified with the amount of brand equity that you have. So yes, it's very important in this industry to cultivate your personal brand.
When I met you last week, I really liked the hat.
Yeah, it's my favorite hat, and I've got a whole bunch of them. I wear a lot of hats all the time. I don't know, something just came up on me about some years back, actually. And I've been growing my collection. I think I've got about 15 now. Wow. I need to get to 30 so I can have one for each day of the week. But yes, I do. Yes, but I do like hats. And I'm hoping to get some more. Maybe when you come through, you can bring me a hat from Nairobi, Bachi.
I will do that. Now I want to talk about a little bit of serious stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah, I want to talk about some serious stuff with regards to media. It plays a lot in shaping societal narratives. What role do you think it should play?
I think the media should play I always say that the media is like a mirror. Like particularly the media I work in. It's a mirror. You're holding up a mirror and people can see themselves. People respond to when they can see themselves and recognize themselves. I remember some years back, I told you that I've worked in film as well. I think I might have mentioned that.
Yes.
And some years back, I went to a festival in Burkina Faso, which is a big one. And they were showing, and this was before Nollywood films became very popular. And they were showing the films that were made in Africa, and they'll be filmed like it will be public screening like in the city. They put up screens, they put up speakers, and people sit. There's got thousands of people watching these movies, these African movies. And there was a lot of response to these movies because people could recognize themselves on the screen, which is why I think also those Nollywood movies have taken off because people recognize themselves when they see those movies. And out there in Nairobi, where you are, I believe one of the biggest radio stations there is called Citizen Radio. I hope I'm right.
Yes.
Part of the Royal Group?
Yes, you're right.
And I understand its success is mainly due to the fact that it's broadcast in the vernacular. One of our successes here is Star FM. Star FM is the biggest radio station in Zimbabwe, like I said. But one of our successes here has been that we've been able to mirror what people are thinking. So it hasn't been the presenter talking down or trying to shape society. It's just holding a mirror, but you see, you guide them by gently tilting the mirror to say, no, this is the correct thing. Now, the media has a function in itself. Yes, it's a reflection of society, but it also needs to tell society when something is bad and that society needs to change. We've got a problem of drug abuse in this country right now.
Yes.
And we as a media organization have taken the stance that we need to champion that cause, to say for young people to move away from drugs and do better. And how do you do that? You constantly remind them of the dangers of taking drugs. You reinforce good behavior, and you positively highlight those people who are drug-free and doing well. That doesn't mean you're running away from those stories. We do talk about those stories, and we tell them graphically and in a raw form so that they understand the dangers. Because sometimes some of these things are glamorized by some societal influencers out there. But these are things we have to take on. So this is what I consider as part of our role as media, and we take that seriously as well.
Yes, that's a very huge responsibility, because there is one thing mirroring society, but when you mirror an ugly part of society, there is that responsibility to show us that this is actually ugly. Now, that means that you must get a lot of criticism and there must be differing opinions. How do you, as a public, in a public-facing career, how do you handle this criticism or differing opinions?
I think you have to take it on board whenever people criticize you. I mean, sometimes people criticize you for, not the correct reasons. But if the reason is just and is correct, we take it on board and we correct ourselves. I mean, we don't know everything. And remember, radio stations are operated by people, and sometimes people will err. So
Yes.
we do take on board all criticism. We take on criticism that we get, but at the very same time, like I said, we try to, part of the criticism has been like, why, as an example, talking about, some of the societal ills. Why are you talking about them? Why don't you just keep it quiet and just focus on the positive? That's sunshine journalism. That's not going to work, and that's not going to help anybody. And you quickly become irrelevant because people be like, why are you not talking about what's happening in society? Why are you just talking about all the good stuff? Like everything is nice and proper when things aren't. So we take on board that criticism and we try to incorporate it into our programming, into our content generation. And that seems to have worked well for us, yes.
Yeah, like a responsive journalism, if there's such a term.
Yes, responsive journalism, yes.
What do you see, Comfort, as your greatest contribution to the media industry or your community?
Yeah, I thought you might ask me a question like that, and I was trying to figure out how I'd respond to that. What I feel would be my greatest contribution, I suppose, is my dedication to my craft. I think it serves as an example for others who will come after me, after my generation of people have gone. Has been a complete dedication to it. I think I started talking about how when I started in this profession, particularly being a continuity presenter, being what's called a radio DJ, there wasn't a lot like musicians. I mean, my wife's a musician. There wasn't a lot of respect that was given to what we did for a living. It was thought of as being frivolous. It was thought of as a career for loose people. Who are just going to hop from one person to the other. And I think what people like myself have done and others who are a lot like me around me have done is given respect to this profession and become role models for people out there. So someone can say, that's what I'd like to do when I grow up because of what we've done. And I've seen it with some of the young people that I've been working with now who've become big brands in Zimbabwe, huge brands in Zimbabwe, from being radio presenters, but are scandal-free. But, are role models to young ladies and young gentlemen out there. And that's because of the work we've put in. Some of us in the background in the past to make that possible and make it happen. So I think for me, that would be probably my greatest contribution to what I've to my craft and my career and my community.
That's actually very inspiring. Turning it into a respectful and integrity-filled career from one that was perceived as not. And you bring about an interesting dynamic by talking about your wife, who is an amazing musician. You are both popular figures. You're both famous. How does that work out in your household?
She's really the more popular one because now I work more in the background. I mean, you can't walk anywhere with my wife and people will stop you for pictures and for autographs because I've worked mainly in the background. Not a lot of people know who I am. And I like it that way. That works nicely for me. It's only when they hear my name is that they say, oh, oh, you're the guy. But one of the things, well, I'll tell you a little anecdote. We were with our youngest son, who's now 11, but at that time I think he must have been about 5 or 6. And I think we were off to watch a movie, and then people kept stopping her to get a picture taken with her, and just try to talk to her, etc., etc. And then you could see it dawning on his face. Says, "Mom, you're famous."
To him, she's just his mom.
Yeah, and he was getting annoyed that why is everybody stopping you? Because he wanted to get there to get the popcorn and the ice cream, etc. Then it dawned on him. He says, "So you're famous." and then and then there was somebody who wanted a picture taken, and so she was saying, "Come into the picture." So he says, "No, I just want her. I don't want this general piece. So just move to the side for a little bit." Happens to me quite a few times actually. I don't mind. I just hold the handbag and stay by the side. But yeah, we've been married for 28 years. Yeah, she's still doing her thing. She recently, like 2 years ago, she acted in a movie. She's an actress and a singer, as you know.
Yes.
So she 2 years ago she acted in a local movie that was done and won the prestigious best actress award for that. She's acting in another. She's acted in another two or three more. She's still doing that. She's involved in music education right now. Actually, she happens to run a music school and is still performing. I know she was performing. Like a week ago, when I was out in Nairobi, she was performing, and she's performing in Bulawayo this coming week at the jazz festival. She performs at festivals and things like that. But we lead a pretty normal life. We're very much, believe it or not, we're very what's the word I'm looking? We're very private at home. We're very private people. We don't like. We like our own company, just like to stay at home, and cook our food and entertain our friends and our family. When we go to family functions, that's when everybody says, "Oh, I know him, I know her," etc., etc. But we're very, very private people, and I think we like it that way. But it's been interesting. We've been married for 28 years. It's been interesting, and I'm sure we'll be married for another 28 more.
Wow! Congratulations to Prudence on the awards. And
thank you. I'll tell her.
Yes, and can you pass on an invite to my podcast while we are on the subject?
Sure, she's gone off she does private music lessons, so she's gone on for that. But I'll certainly tell her when she gets back that you have been invited to a private podcast interview. I'm sure she'd love to do it.
Okay,
and good. She'll let you know about her career and what she's been doing. And I know she'd want to talk about her music school as well.
Great. Thank you. Now, something that came up in that... when you're talking about your family, your friendships and networking, like networking and social capital has been like one of the biggest themes in all my conversations. And I would like to find out from you, how have you found your network in terms of your social capital, in terms of like opportunities, in terms of your career? Has it been pivotal in the amazing and successful career that you have had? And on the other side, as a public figure, how do you have that defining line of like, these are my friends, these are my genuine friends, and these are just, part of the network?
That's another good question. I have a small circle of friends. I have a lot of people I know and acquaintances.
Yes.
I have a small circle of friends whom I hang out with, whom I rely on for support, and whom I also hopefully support as well. And then as we move out, I've got business acquaintances, and I have been around and I've networked the hell out of everything. I mean, one of the reasons why one of my managers at work like me is they say, let's go and see Comfort. He'll help us with this. So they'll say, do you know anybody at et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I know a guy. Let me give him a call. And things move. So I've spent my whole life networking, and that has really, really helped me in a lot of things. So networking is crucial. It is extremely important. But just meeting somebody and shaking their hand and giving them your business card isn't enough. You have to be able to show them that you've got some value that you can offer them. And that you also maybe require that, and that requires you maybe staying in touch, talking, etc. The other time I was invited to a golf tournament. I don't play golf at all, actually. I've got golf clubs, but I just don't know how to play. But I do enjoy that after golf thing when everybody's having a beer. And that is when a lot of the networking is happening there. It happens on the golf course, but it also happens here. It also happens there. And the gentleman who asked me to come to this golf tournament, he said, I'd like for you to meet some people. And sitting there was some people here. And that meeting was so pivotal and so important. So I'll say to your listeners out there that it is crucial to create a lot of networks out there of people who can assist you, of people you can call on in the future, and then you can have mutual benefits as people who've networked with each other. And over the years, I found that that's really, really worked. As a semi-public figure, it's important also to know the difference between people who are just being sycophants and fans, and people who you genuinely can do work with. You'll find a lot of people who just want to be associated with because of your name and who you are out there. So you have to be very careful and be able to sieve and filter out the ones who just trying to use you for who they get. And they're there. If there's someone who say to you, oh, no, I want you to come to my house, I'm having a party, why don't you just pass through and say hi? But, they don't understand that, or maybe it's for my wife as an example. They'll come and sing a song. I know, you can have a plate of food. But for her, this is what she does for a living. She has to be paid for it.
Yes.
But they say, but I know you. But it's just singing a song. But it's work. She'll rehearse a song and then she'll train her voice and she has to pay a musician, but somebody doesn't want to pay. So you have to be careful about that sort of thing and how it pans out. Yeah, so networking is very important. I encourage it for everybody out there because it will assist you in the future.
Yes, networking your network, pouring into that network is just as important as what you can get out of it. And I think that's one of the crucial aspects that has come out with all my guests about networking. It being crucially important, but also that you have to be willing to give into it as well. What's next for you, Comfort?
Oh, I'll probably there's a lot of things that I've got in the works that I'll probably reveal to you at our next interview. But I'm still growing.
I look forward to that next interview.
But I'm still growing. I'm still excited about things that are happening out there. I've been in administration for these radio stations for the last 8 years now. I think maybe in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, I should be pivoting and changing to something else related, but maybe bigger and more exciting. And I'm just looking forward to all that. Exciting times ahead, and I'm not slowing down anytime soon. I think I'll only slow down when I'm about to be buried and I'm about to go into my grave. But lots more coming up, and I hope I'll be able to come back and we can share about all that in the future.
Okay. Comfort, thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to wrap up with one last question for you. Lessons learned. Looking back on your career, what do you think has been the most significant lesson you've learned? Or, in other words, what is that one thing? What would you say to young Comfort starting out?
The one thing I'll say to young Comfort is see something through. There were a lot of things I started and I stopped. There were a lot of things I started and I stopped. And now, as I've gotten older, I've realized the value of seeing something through. That would be the one thing I'll tell young people. See something through, but also have the wisdom to know when something's not working for you, so you can change it before it gets too far and you get too sunken in your investment in it. So I don't know. It sounds like a bit of a contradiction there, doesn't it?
A little bit. You see things through, but get out quickly if you see that it's not quite working. I think there's...
That's it. You said it better than me. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
Comfort, it has been my honor and pleasure to have this conversation with you today. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule. Hey, we pulled you out of your routine, your daily routine today, and I am grateful to you. Any final thoughts or messages for our listeners before we leave? It's hard to stop the conversation, but do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say to our young listeners that, the future belongs to you. Just be the best you can in life and live your best life. This isn't a rehearsal. This is the one life you have. So live your best life, do your best, and enjoy as much of it as possible. And thank you so much for having me on your show. It was lovely seeing you and your lovely family. I hope the twins are doing all right. It was lovely to see you and your lovely family last week. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you. We will talk soon. Twins are doing great. They're my inspiration. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in today. I was very inspired by Comfort's story. I hope you were too. And until next time, stay inspired.